Norman, I just met you a few moments ago at the Values Voters Summit. It was interesting. We were talking about the issue of divorce. And because, in Texas, we are attempting to repeal no-fault divorce.
Yeah, I'm very excited about your work.
But you related to me your own experience. Can you share that?
Yeah, the reason I like what you're doing is because it does resonate with me because I am a child of divorce. And it really left a big mark on me. My parents divorced when I was not even 4 years old. Although my mother is very surprised by the fact, I remember it. And it's an image that is ingrained in my memory. I'll never forget that till the day I die.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that because I remember when my father told me that my parents were getting divorced, there was a snowman. And I remember picking up a snowball and throwing it at the snowman because no kid wants to see that happen.
No, it doesn't want to see, yeah. So the thing is, she finds it hard to believe, but I remember the picture. I knew my father was going to the front door. He had his suitcase, put his suitcase down. He might have given my mother a peck on the cheek. And I knew, I don't know how I knew this, I knew my father was leaving and that he was never going to come back. And at that moment, I felt my the whole foundation shake. And I was filled with a lot of fear because I wondered, what are we going to do? I knew that the father was a breadwinner and we wouldn't have that. I mean, how would we survive? So it was very, very moving. So then I came across the book by Judith Wallerstein that you mentioned, Unexpected Legacy of Divorce.
Right.
And for me, like I told you, I wish I would have come across that years ago because it helped me to explain myself what I went through.
Yeah, and I mentioned that Layla Miller has written a book recently, and I'll forward that to you. It's called Primal Loss, the now adult children of divorce speak out, because the myth of society is that children are resilient. Children just want to see their parents happy. If their parents are happy, the children are happy. Children can always bounce back, but there are 70 adults that are writing in this book, and even to this day, they're still afraid that some of them are afraid that maybe their parents will know it's them that are speaking, talking about the words that they use are devastation, tragedy. I mean, things that are associated with loss and destruction. It's not a happy picture, and I take it that was not the case in your life.
No, it wasn't, and I'm glad you said that because I did want to say that I'm a survivor of this situation. It's far from, well, it's very, very less than ideal, but I was able to make it thanks to the fact that I had a very good mother. She is a very Catholic lady, a very strong lady, and she instilled values in me that a prayer life, etc., to be able to make it through. So without a good mother like that, I would not have been able. I mean, I don't know what it would have happened.
So you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, there were 5 boys and 1 girl, and my mom raised all of us by herself.
And how did it affect them?
Well, I don't want to go into detail, but it affected them in very negative ways. Let's put it that way. They have all had struggles, and I've had struggles, and like I told you, I don't want to use Wallerstein's book as a crutch, to excuse the mistakes that I made in my life, because I am who I am. The grace of God is always there to help.
Right.
And so, but the main thing is the book helped me to understand myself. But we had issues, we had failings, we had struggles, challenges, and I had one brother that didn't make it through the challenges. He's deceased, and it was a very unfortunate death. Let's just put it that way.
Wow. So, I mean, in Texas, the biggest opposition we have to repealing no-fault divorce is the Texas Family Law Foundation, the divorce attorneys.
Yeah.
The divorce attorneys try to convince people that this is a right that every parent should have. They should be able to divorce at will, and the kids will make it through. I would take it that you would not be a fan of divorce attorneys.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And what I would counsel these divorce lawyers and the parents even contemplating it is to stop and listen to stories like mine and others, people that you will be interviewing, and see what we went through. Like I said, I'm hesitant to say the struggles that I personally went through, what my family members did, but it was hard. And I could have ended up a disaster. I could have ended up an alcoholic. I could have ended up drug abuse, suicide, whatever. I'm a single man, though. Had I gotten married, who knows if my marriage would have would have worked. And Mrs. Wallerstein says that in her book. Most children of divorce will end up getting divorced themselves, along with all of these other problems I mentioned. So I am what I am because of the grace of God.
Yeah.
But it's hard. So parents don't take that into consideration. Parents should listen to people who've gone through this and see what effect it had on them.
You know, I've heard people say about divorce attorneys, you just mentioned a few things there, the struggles, the things that you could have gotten into, and you know that children of divorce are more susceptible to what we consider socially bad behavior, addiction issues, not making it through high school, not going to college, living in a cycle of poverty, possibly being involved in gang activity if you're a female, being sexually promiscuous, getting pregnant outside of wedlock. Of course, at that point in time, you've got so many people that are getting pregnant, you have abortion issues that come up. We don't talk about teenage suicides that take place. And yet you also just said something else too. It's not just a short-term issue, because you're talking about what Wallerstein said, the rest of your life, and how many times this becomes intergenerational, the divorce. That you know, so basically, and this sounds terrible, it sounds skeptical, it sounds cynical as can be, but these divorce attorneys, some of them, they know that by creating this divorce, they're going to keep a fresh source of clients for themselves, because some of these children will be coming to them in the future.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And the other thing being, and people say, well, okay, this is just an issue, obviously they've had some problems or whatever, but so many people in society today either are divorced or have been through a divorce with their parents. They may be marrying somebody from a totally stable family, and the dynamics are completely different. And sometimes the people in those families don't really understand some of the interaction issues. That's what Layla Miller talks about. These people that, as you know, they made it through, they survived. Nobody likes to call themselves a victim. They call themselves a survivor. They made it through somehow. But the ongoing struggles, many of them have 20, 30, 40 years later, and how it has impacted their marriage, their lives with their kids and everything. So you would be standing behind us as far as the...
And I just wanted to say a word about the lasting effects of it. One of the things Mrs. Wallerstein said in her book that really struck me a lot is that the child of divorce is always waiting for the other shoe to fall, which I didn't understand that expression when I first read it, but then that resonated a lot with me.
Right.
And so the struggle that no matter how good things may be at a certain point, it's going to end in disaster. Why is that? It's because the foundational relationship upon which all the other relationships the child will form in life is the mother-father relationship. And that's something that cannot fail.
Right.
So I think that's the reason that it's a lifetime struggle. So like for myself, I'm 56 years old. My parents separated when I was 4. Thanks be to God, I am where I am today. But the thing is, I know that it's going to be a lifetime struggle, but I've got an extra bag to carry, so to speak.
Right.
And that is the feeling that, okay, I'm good right now, but if things aren't going very, very well, this could end in disaster.
Yeah, the other shoe
falling. I know
falling.
that resonates with you, I can tell, but that is something you deal with.
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, I've used that exact phrase. You're waiting for the other shoe to fall. Yeah. Something is going to be happening. So the people then that would say, well, you know, parents have a right to be happy. You disagree with that philosophy? No matter what, I get to pursue happiness.
The right to be happy. Well, happiness is doing the will of God. Mm-hmm. And marriage is something that is a sacrament. It's a vow that the couple makes. Mm-hmm. To each other, and it should in the presence of God, it should be made for life. And once the person makes that decision, they have the obligation to stick it out for the sake of the child.
Yeah.
Now there are situations where a husband is absolutely could be abusive and dangerous. You know, there could be a separation or what have you. But people are going out now and just getting divorced and remarried on and off again without taking into consideration that if you bring a human life into the world, then you've got a responsibility towards that child.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that there's much else that I wanted to ask you about, but just to hear your experience. Obviously, what I've been finding is when I've talked with people is that many people are saying the same thing, but when I talk about we're attempting to repeal unilateral divorce, unilateral forced divorce, no fault divorce they call it. In Texas, they look at me like I'm a strange bird. Like, can you really do this? But there are a number of issues. It's not just the issue of children growing up, family issues, societal issues. There are legal issues. There are constitutional issues. There are a whole mess of problems that are created. And then, of course, once you create the problem, then the government has to come in and solve the problem.
Exactly.
And I mean, here we are at a Voters Value Summit. We believe in the strength of the family, the importance of the family, and that would be marriage.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the family is a basic cell of society.
Yeah.
And once you destroy the family, society crumbles. At the most basic level of any society is the family. And divorce, what does that do for the family?
Yeah.
So I thank you very much for the work you do. It's awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you.